I've been married to my husband for 8 years, and we have a 6-year-old daughter together, and I love my family, but I'm not really a fan of my in-laws. We are not very close with them, but my father-in-law passed away 2 years ago, so since then, my husband has been making an active effort to stay in touch with his mother and sister. I don't like them. I've never liked them. And I think it's safe to say they don't like me much either. But they love my daughter. I put up with them. I'm civil to them, but that's all. However, recently my patience has been wearing thin, my mother-in-law, because she has been negatively influencing my daughter about her appearance and mine. Basically, she's been making a lot of underhand comments and snide remarks about how my daughter looks a little too much like me. And she wouldn't want that because she doesn't think that I'm very pretty, and has been telling my daughter that as she grows up, she would wish for her to look more like her aunt, my sister-in-law, and that she should pay attention to her appearance instead of just not caring like I do. Because apparently a woman is nothing without her beauty. Obviously, this is not the right way to influence a young girl about beauty standards. And I don't like it one bit, because I can tell that it's been making my daughter feel a bit conscious about her appearance. And it's been making her feel weird about my appearance as well, because I've never bothered that much with makeup. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't have that kind of time and energy, and I personally don't like it either. I like looking plain and simple, and I don't care what people think of me because I think I look pretty enough, at least for myself. But lately my daughter has been telling me to put on makeup and to wear fancy clothes, to do my nails and hair, and I know that her grandmother's lessons have been getting to her. She knows that she's not allowed around my makeup or other products. So she's been telling me to do it because I think she's embarrassed that I'm not always decked to the nines. And I find that very sad. So I've spoken to my husband about it as well, and he doesn't like what's happening either. He's even spoken to his mother about it, but she's just deflected, saying that she's just trying to look out for her granddaughter by making her aware of the reality of the world. But I really don't think that it's necessary at this age, at least. As she grows into her teens, she is inevitably going to develop insecurities, and we don't want that. So I don't understand why her grandmother is so bent on doing stuff like this, which is harmful and detrimental to mental and emotional growth. Anyway, for a couple of days, she had stopped bringing all this up. And these things are going back to normal, so we had invited her over for dinner last evening because we were celebrating our marriage anniversary. It was a small and intimate party, and I think that is something to be thankful about, because what happened was not really something I would have wanted other people to witness. So basically, while we were having dinner and drinks, my mother-in-law started talking about appearances once again. And my daughter was there as well, and she started looking very weird. I was not happy about it at all, and I was about to say something about the whole thing myself, but then my husband interrupted his mom, and he told her that he doesn't really think his daughter has to worry about her appearance, especially when somebody like his mother managed to get married and get to work and have a moderately successful life in spite of lacking in every department, not just beauty. He told her that she was not particularly bright, she was not particularly stunning, and neither was she much of a good person, and yet she had lived her life normally like everyone else does. So if she can manage it, even if other people are not that beautiful, they definitely can as well. Besides, our daughter is at least going to be intelligent and kind, so she doesn't have to worry about her beauty. Obviously, that was the start to a big fight. So I immediately rushed my daughter to her bedroom and put her to bed because, as it is, It was a little past her bedtime, and I didn't want her witnessing anything that was about to happen because I knew that my mother-in-law was not about to let this go. And when I came back out, I knew that I was right because by then she and my husband were having a full-blown quarrel. She was very upset about what we had said, naturally. And she and my sister-in-law were yelling at him about whatever he had said. They were accusing him of humiliating his own family in front of everyone, though that was a bit of an exaggeration because the only people present there were my parents and my sister and her family. So it was basically just family, but even then, they were crying about being embarrassed and spoken to that way in front of so many people. I didn't know what to say, and I was feeling kind of weird about the whole thing, but then my mother-in-law decided to make a very horrible comment about how my husband and I had basically set her up to make comments like this about my daughter and her appearance, because she wanted her granddaughter to look presentable in the future, unlike me, who could never be bothered to put an effort into my looks. And I always looked dowdy and unkempt, and that did nothing to improve my already ugly face. She also went on to talk about how I was short and pudgy, and that was just the final straw for me. Before that, I was even considering diffusing the situation, but after she said that, there was no way I was doing that. I instantly told both of them to get out of my house, because they could not just insult me and my appearance, and then expect to get away with it. And of course, they put up a fight, telling me that I couldn't just ask him to leave, because after all, this was my husband's house as well. But even he did not defend them. And it was silly of them to even expect him to defend them after they had just basically called me ugly and unattractive. Look, I don't have a problem with them thinking that I'm ugly and unattractive. I personally don't care what people think about me. I know who I am and I'm confident in my own skin. But for them to be perpetuating these things in front of my daughter, to be teaching her to hate herself at such a young age, that's just not tolerable for me. I have received enough criticism about my appearance over the years. I have had enough people tell me that they don't like the way I look. And I've learnt to develop a thick skin. But I'm not going to allow my daughter to go through the same thing. So, anyway, I kicked them out. And I have told my husband I do not want them coming back here. And I don't want him or my daughter to have any sort of relationship with these women. Initially, obviously, I felt good about it. But now that a couple of hours have passed, I'm reconsidering it because after all, they have had a loss as a family, and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing by telling my husband to cut them out of his life. I'm kind of confused. AITA for not wanting my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law to be a part of my life anymore? Update 1. Okay, thank you so much to everybody who commented on my post. It really means a lot to me. And I have taken all things into consideration. I've spoken to my parents and I've spoken to my friends and I've read all the comments, and I think I'm going to stick to my decision. I don't think my husband needs anything to do with these people, and as it is, he certainly doesn't want anything to do with them at all. As for my daughter, I don't think that she's going to miss them too much. She's probably going to ask about them for a couple of days, but then she's going to forget about it because that's what happens when you're young. I had been feeling kind of guilty about cutting them off because after all, they only have each other. Now that the glue holding the family, my father-in-law, is gone, I never really got along with him, but at least he was not outright mean or rude to me like the rest of the family. We just hardly ever spoke to each other, and that was it. But anyway, like I said, I don't feel guilty anymore because whatever has happened, these two people have brought it onto themselves. So right now, they have no moral higher ground to be blaming me for anything. Besides, my husband is a grown-up man. I think he's capable enough to make decisions for himself and think for himself. And if he thinks he doesn't need to prioritize his relationship with his mom and sister, then it's his call to make. They keep forgetting that it's not just my daughter that they have been targeting, it's also his daughter. And regardless of any of that, she's a child, so I don't understand why they felt the need to bring her into all of this in the first place. Their incessant need to try and put us down just makes no sense anymore. And the fact that we don't want to deal with it is their fault and not ours. Update 2. Hey, it's been a couple of days since my previous update, and recently I received a promotion at work. Of course it had come after ages of slogging and working overtime, like it does in any other career, but only my mother-in-law and sister-in-law would turn it into something ugly. I had celebrated this huge milestone a couple of weeks ago by throwing a party, and a lot of friends and family had attended it, so people knew that I had been promoted. And just last evening I found out that apparently my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, these two hateful women, have been gossiping about me, implying that I must have had something going on with my boss, which is why I had to work overtime so frequently, and that's why I got that promotion. And I think that's the lowest that somebody can go. And thankfully, I found out about it after one of my husband's cousins informed him about what is being said about me. I'm grateful for the fact that the rest of his family is not this disgusting, and they have either been dismissing all of that as BS gossip or hateful rubbish, or they have just been cutting my mother-in-law and sister-in-law off, telling them that they don't want to hear about it because it doesn't seem believable. And I'm glad that people are choosing not to hear them out, because they need to be put in their places. This is disgusting. And the fact that this is coming from two women themselves, it's even more disturbing, because how could anybody stoop to such levels just to get back at me for something I haven't even done? I don't understand why they hate me so much. I will never understand it, but whatever it is, I'm done dealing with this, and I'm going to hit back now, and I'm not going to let them think that they can get away with saying whatever they want to. This is unfair. It's ridiculous, and it's not going to continue anymore. I'm going to make sure of that. Update 3. So I did what I had to. I posted about everything that had happened, and I also spoke about how I did not approve of the fact that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were making certain insinuations about me, which were obviously false. They were trying to shame me for my achievements, after having already done the same thing for my appearance. I was not going to put up with this anymore, but I was going to take a stand for myself. So I posted about it, and so far it's been a couple of hours and everybody is on my side. People have been sending me some lovely messages to support me. They have been commenting to let me know that they are on my side, and it's just really nice to know that the whole family is with me on this. My husband is also very proud of me. He told me that he had been waiting for me to do something like this because it was my place to say something, and he didn't want to overtake me with his voice, and I really appreciate that he let me make my own decisions about how I wanted to deal with this. Of course, until now, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have had absolutely nothing to say in their defense, but I'm sure that they will come up with something, and I'm really waiting to see what happens. Update 4. Hey, so, well, apparently I was wrong. They did not hit back at me, and they did not try to defend themselves. I guess they noticed how everybody was against them, and they just decided to quietly disappear. They have both deactivated their social media accounts, and from what I've heard, they have not been answering any phone calls or messages either. So I guess that they are laying low until this all passes over, which is good for them and for me, because I won't have to deal with any more drama for a while now. I'm happy that I took a stand for myself. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself. I'm usually not a very confrontational person. I believe in letting things go instead of making a big deal out of everything because it's just a waste of my own energy and time. But this time, I chose to stand for myself, and I'm so glad that there has been such a positive response. Thank you so much to everybody for reading. Story 2. You ever meet someone and immediately think, oh, you're the type who collects grudges like fine china? Yep, that's my mother-in-law. To paint the picture, she's the kind of woman who treats passive aggressiveness like a competition sport. Sweet on the outside, southern charm, fake laughs and all, but underneath, petty, controlling, judgmental, and forever convinced that the world revolves around her last name. I started dating her son, Zach, 6 years ago. We met at work and fell hard fast. And in every way that makes people roll their eyes unless it's happening to them. And for most of our relationship, mother-in-law was weirdly buddy-buddy with me, always complimenting my hair, inviting me to brunch, tagging me in Pinterest boards about weddings even before we were engaged. Looking back, I realized she thought of me as a phase, cute, temporary, and manageable. Then Zach proposed. Suddenly, her Pinterest tags vanished. The brunch invites dried up, and the compliments turned into questions. Are you sure you want a dress like that? It's a little form-fitting. Are your parents going to be able to contribute anything? You're not one of those modern girls who refuse to take their husband's name, are you? You get the drift. At first, I tried to laugh it off. Thought maybe she was just adjusting. Maybe she was anxious. Zach told me to ignore her, said she was always like that and he had my back. And he did, fully. Every single time she made a comment, Zach shut it down. No hesitation, no stay out of it nonsense. That man chose me every time, which is why we even made it to the rehearsal dinner without me throwing a bouquet of hydrangeas at her smug little face. Now, let's talk about that rehearsal dinner. It was 2 days before the wedding. Our friends, family, and the bridal party all gathered at this cozy venue we'd rented out. Everything was perfect. My mom had just cried happy tears during her speech, and Zach was beaming like I was the damn moon. Then she stood up. Mother-in-law clinked her glass, smiled like this was the most natural thing in the world, and announced she had a special gift for the bride-to-be. Everyone clapped, cameras out. I braced myself. I thought, okay, maybe this is going to be sentimental. Maybe she's turning a corner. Oh, sweet summer child. She pulls out this rap book and hands it to me. I open it, and I swear to every petty ancestor in my bloodline, it was a purity test, a literal printed booklet, old school, creepily detailed, with a note on the inside cover that read, "A respectable woman has nothing to hide. Welcome to the family." I blinked twice. My friends were silent. My dad's jaw unhinged like a cartoon. Zach looked like he was about to launch a chair across the room. And me? I smiled. Because this woman thought she had me cornered. Thought I'd be shocked, embarrassed, maybe even too humiliated to respond. Thought I'd fold. But I didn't come unarmed. See, I've known mother-in-law for years. I know how she plays. And I had a feeling she'd pull something. So 3 weeks before the rehearsal, on a total hunch, I bought a little something of my own and kept it wrapped in my purse just in case. So I turned to her with the fakest, sweetest voice I could muster and said, "Oh my gosh, thank you. You know, I actually got you something too. A pre-wedding gift. So thoughtful, right?" She looked confused, nervous even. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small wrap box and handed it to her. She opened it. Inside, a DNA testing kit, complete with a note that read, "Because respectable women have nothing to hide either." Her face. Her face. It went from smug to shocked to drained of all colour in under 3 seconds. She slammed the box shut, stood up, muttered something about needing air, and stormed out of the venue. Dead silence. And then laughter, first from Zach's best man and then my maid of honour, and then a ripple effect across the whole room. Even Zach's usually tight-lipped uncle let out a damn under his breath. Zach? He pulled me in, kissed my temples and said, "God, I love you." It was beautiful. Now, I didn't expect the full fallout to hit that night. But the next morning I woke up to a novel from mother-in-law in the family group chat, accusing me of being cruel, vindictive and trashy. Said I ruined her moment and disrespected the family. Claimed I was trying to shame her with baseless accusations. To be clear, I never accused her of anything. But if a DNA test scares you that much, girl, that's not my problem. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Zach left the group chat with a quick, "Don't talk to my wife like that." His cousins messaged me on the side saying it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. His aunt mailed me a freaking congratulatory candle with a sticky note that said, "For the savage bride." We still got married 2 days later. Still had the perfect ceremony, beautiful vows, dancing, cake, the works. Mother-in-law didn't show up. Instead, she went dark for 3 months. Radio silence, no calls, no messages. Zach didn't chase her. I sure as hell didn't. Eventually, she resurfaced, claimed she was ready to reconcile, but only if I apologized. Yeah, that didn't happen. She tried to bring it up at Thanksgiving, said we could have just laughed off the purity test. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "If that test was so funny, why'd you leave before dessert?" She shut up real fast. Now, she's still in the picture, but at arm's length. Zach handles all communication. I set hard boundaries. She's realized I'm not the one to play with, and honestly, family events are much more peaceful now that she knows I don't do guilt, games, or group chats. So yeah, that's the story of how my mother-in-law tried to shame me with a purity test and ended up ghosting her own son's wedding because I handed her back a little taste of her own medicine. Moral of the story? If you're going to throw rocks, don't do it from a glass house. And never, ever mess with the bride who did her homework. Update 1. I know some of you are confused. The comment section was filled with questions like, why a DNA test though? Why not a snarky book or a gag gift or just a verbal slapdown? Oh, trust me, I had plenty of options, but this one hit her where it hurts because the DNA test wasn't random. It wasn't about my husband, and it sure as hell wasn't about paternity drama in my relationship. It was about hers. Let's rewind a bit. My mother-in-law, let's call her Sharon, comes from a picture-perfect, plastic-coated family. Her whole identity is built around being classy, well-bred, old money adjacent, and most annoyingly, traditional. She acts like the Kennedy family meets the Stepford Wives with a little splash of Southern debutante energy. If it's not designer, white glove approved, and reputationally sterile, Sharon doesn't want it in her orbit. Which is hilarious when you know her origin story, because Sharon's own mother, my husband's grandmother, went through a whole soap opera scandal back in the day. And if you grew up in their town, you knew it. It was the kind of story the church ladies whispered about during potlucks and the men side-eyed over poker. See, when Sharon was born, her parents were already married. But a few months after her birth, her father apparently started getting suspicious. The timing didn't add up. Sharon looked different. And so he demanded a paternity test. Well, he got his answer. Turns out Sharon's mom had a fling before she got married, and Sharon? Not biologically his. He walked out, not just from the marriage, but from Sharon's life. Never paid child support because he didn't owe her that. Never called, never acknowledged her again. Sharon's mother remarried a few years later, but the whole thing stuck like glue to Sharon's identity. Her last name changed, but the gossip didn't. Now, none of this is Sharon's fault, obviously. She was a baby. She didn't ask for the drama, but here's where it gets messy. Instead of growing up with compassion or humility, she grew up deeply ashamed. She overcompensated by creating this fake, perfect version of herself. She built her entire adulthood around being untouchable. She married into a conservative family, became obsessive about appearances, and basically tried to bury every trace of her origin story. Even my husband didn't know the full story until I found it, because I'm a research girly. And before marrying into any family, I do my homework. About 2 months before the wedding, I started noticing Sharon acting weirdly, controlling again. Her behavior was giving 1950s cult leader, the passive-aggressive digs, the controlling texts, the weird obsession with our wedding plans, guest list, and my dress. And that's when I started digging into her past a bit more. I found an archived newspaper clipping from a local gossip column in her hometown. It didn't name names, but it was clear. Local businessman files for annulment citing paternity dispute. Right around her birth year, right town, right family, it was all there. A little more research? School yearbooks, census records. You'd be shocked at what you can uncover when someone's determined to rewrite history. I asked my husband if he'd ever heard the story. He hadn't. I showed him the articles. He was stunned, but honestly, not that surprised. He said, "It actually explains a lot about how she is." And it did. So when Sharon handed me that purity test at our rehearsal dinner, acting all high and mighty like she was the gatekeeper of morality and tradition, I didn't just see an outdated booklet. I saw generational projection. I saw her trying to shame me for not being the ideal she created in her own head, probably because she was never allowed to be a flawed, complex human being either. So yeah, I gave her a DNA test as a gift, not because I wanted to expose her, not because I thought it would be funny, okay, maybe a little bit of that, but because she needed to be reminded. Don't throw purity stones when your own house is built on a scandal you never made peace with. And judging by the way she turned sheet white and stormed out of that venue like it was haunted, she knew exactly what I was referencing. That box didn't just say 23 and me on it. It screamed, "I know." And yes, the other knew too. By other, I mean the people not related to our family. Why? Because my husband told a couple of them about it, and the elders obviously knew. For the record, I never said a word about it in front of others. I didn't air her dirty laundry publicly. I just handed her the gift and let her reaction do the rest. But now, after months of icy silence and failed attempts at reconciliation, I don't think she's mad about the gift. I think she's mad she knows I know. And even worse, she knows I didn't flinch when she tried to embarrass me. I didn't cower. I didn't play her game. I stared her shame in the face and smiled. And when you're someone who spent their whole life trying to outrun a truth you never processed, that smile is lethal. My husband, bless his backbone, has stood by me through it all. He told me, "You handled her better in one night than I have my whole life." And that, my friend, is why we are still happily married. Because in this house, we don't let trauma bullies win. Update 2. These days, Sharon walks on eggshells around me. You know that stiff smile people give when they're scared of you, but trying not to show it? That's her default expression now. She still shows up to family events, face powdered, pearls on, voice one octave too high, but she doesn't so much as breathe sideways in my direction. I don't go out of my way to antagonize her. I'm not cruel, but I also don't go out of my way to make her comfortable. And that, to someone like Sharon, is a power shift she cannot handle. Because for years she counted on everyone bending, on politeness, on fear, on her unnecessary traditions. She played puppet master with that sweet smile and controlled her image like it was a press release. But not anymore. I'm not the shy girlfriend who used to nod and smile through backhanded compliments. I'm her daughter-in-law now, and whether she likes it or not, I'm permanent. And the best part? I didn't even have to scream, cry, or cause a scene. All I had to do was remind her with one very deliberate gift that I'm not the one. That I came prepared. That I'm not here to be approved or accepted. I'm here because I belong and I have a husband who makes sure everyone knows it. She may never say it out loud, but Sharon got the message loud and clear. I don't need your blessing. I brought my own crown. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.